Yo, what's up guys? Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the heroes and villains we can expect to see in the future Battlefront DLC packs, the first of which is due to drop early 2016, so we can probably expect to be hearing about that anytime soon. Before we start, I have a sponsored message from the top Star Wars card trader app. This is a free mobile app where you can collect the iconic characters from Star Wars, open packs, trade, read information about the lore of Star Wars, earn achievements and much more. If you're interested in checking the app out, there's a link down in the description below you can click on. So then, back on topic, the season pass for Battlefront details that there will be 4 more heroes and villains added to the game, and with there being 4 DLCs, I'm going on the assumption that there will be 1 new hero per DLC. Now you could read that line and say, well, does that mean 4 heroes and then 4 villains, making a total of 8 new ones? I had to think about that myself, but it just didn't make sense. There just doesn't seem to be enough heroes and villains to stretch it out to 8, plus it would be a bit silly to have more heroes in your DLC than the base game. So based on the fact that I think there are 4 new characters coming in future DLCs, I took some time to narrow down who I think they'll be, and I believe I've got a solid lineup. 2 heroes and 2 villains. First up, but in no particular order, is Chewie. I mean, he literally has to be added in, right? He's one of the most iconic figures in Star Wars, and his best pal, Han Solo, is already living the dream in the game already. Also, his main weapon of choice, the bowcaster, is kind of in the game already, and much like Boba Fett's weapon, it's a playable gun for the masses. I think we can say 100% that Chewie will make an appearance in one of the DLCs. Thinking a bit about his abilities, I definitely think he'll have some sort of powerful melee attack, because he can rip people's arms off after all. That's going to work well with him. He's going to be a bit tanky as well, but maybe what about him calling in an orbital strike by the Millennium Falcon? Maybe a bit too much, possibly, but I think we'll definitely be seeing him in the game. Next up, and again a popular choice I think, would be Yoda. Now Yoda is a slightly trickier one because while he is a super iconic and a fantastic Jedi, the game focuses on the original trilogy, and in that trilogy Yoda is actually pretty old and never actually uses a lightsaber, so he would have to look fairly old but be able to fight more like he did in the prequels, I guess. The other issue with Yoda that I could see would be his height. Would the fact that he's so small cause any gameplay issues with the engine when fighting or moving, etc.? I'm fairly sure they'd find a way to make it work though, so we could see him in the game. In terms of his abilities, he'd probably be equipped with a lightsaber as his main weapon and definitely have a strong force ability, not too dissimilar to Luke's. I think he'd also have a strong movement ability because he's just so nimble and quick. Think Palpatine's movement jump, something along those lines. So that's the heroes wrapped up. I had another potential one lined up in Lando Calrissian, and while it's possible he could still make a showing, I think overall he'd maybe be a bit too similar to Han Solo because he's kind of like a gunslinger and a smuggler and just not as cool as the other two. So for now, I've left him out as a possibility. Another one worth mentioning though, old Obi-Wan Kenobi. Would it work or would it just be a bit too weird? You tell me. Moving on to the villains, and this is where it gets interesting. As I said, DICE and EA have confirmed that this Star Wars Battlefront game will be original trilogy only, and unfortunately there aren't actually that many iconic villains in the original trilogy apart from Darth Vader, the Emperor and Boba Fett, which are already in the game. So this was a tricky choice, but I've done a bit of research and come up with 2 that I think would be interesting enough providing their lore and abilities are explained well. One of the new villains I went for in the end was Bosque. Bosque is a bounty hunter, first seen in The Empire Strikes Back when Vader is assembling his bounty hunters to track down the Millennium Falcon. What's interesting about Bosque, if you look into his history, is that his race, the Trandoshans, don't have a particularly fond relationship with the Wookiees. In fact, they've been known to hunt them and kill them. With the likelihood of Chewie being added to the game, Bosque seems like a good shout to be the complete opposite to him. As well as that, he looks damn awesome, doesn't he? Really distinctive and way cooler than some of the other potential bounty hunters. I was looking at Dengar and, well, if that was a choice between the 2, Bosque just looks better and way cooler in my opinion. So what could his abilities be? Well, I think we could see another character with strong melee attacks as he's very skilled in hand-to-hand combat, and his weapon of choice is a Relby V10 mortar gun, which was basically a grenade launcher. I think he could be a really cool villain to play as. Lastly, we have one more villain, and this one is another bounty hunter that was standing alongside Bosque on the Executor with Vader, the IG-88 assassin droid. Now this guy has so many tricks up his sleeve that it's really hard to know where to start. His main weapon is a Blastech DLT-20A blast rifle, but his gadgets and tools are where his strengths are. Now clearly he can't have all of these because he's going to be pretty OP, but here are a few possible things he could be equipped with. Paralyzing darts, sonic stunner, toxic gas, thermal detonators, concussion grenades, flechettes, radiation grenades, blaster reflective palms, heat and motion sensors, and that's just some of the ones I picked out. Plus, how cool would an assassin droid look in the game? There's not really anything like it in Battlefront at the moment. Pretty sweet if you ask me. So there are my 4 potentials: Bosque, IG-88, Chewbacca and Yoda. I think they would make some pretty cool additions to the game in my opinion. And one big villain that I've left out that a lot of people have speculated about is the Rancor. Now I think he'd be a bit too big to be a selectable hero in the game, because if you think about some of the maps in the game already, there's going to be lots of playable spaces that the Rancor just couldn't possibly fit into. Well, how about a game mode instead, where each team has to fight over control of the Rancor? Intrigued? Well, let me continue. You could either have this as its own mode or add it into another mode where you've got a controller point on the map, and whoever gets to control that point gets access to a Rancor that they can control. A bit like the AC-130 in BF4 I guess, but with bigger arms and, well, it's not in the air and flying, but you see the point. Can you imagine running around the map playing as a massive Rancor, clawing at stormtroopers and throwing rebels around? I've got no idea if that's going to ever happen, but just thinking about it puts a smile on my face. And that's all for today, folks. What heroes and villains would you like to see in the game? Are there any others that you think would be better suited? Let me know down below. As always, thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you in the next one.